Hey guys, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I've got a sheath to show you today. This is a front pocket sheath for a Bark River Bushbat. This is a collaborative design between Chris Tanner at Prepared Mind 101 and Shane Wink, great knife designer. So let me know what you guys think of this knife in particular. Let me know what you think of Chris Tanner's designs, and let me know what you think of Bark River. And actually, how about LT Wright as well, because they're producing at least one, maybe two of Chris Tanner's designs. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think it's just Bark River and LT Wright, but obviously I could definitely be wrong, as I am many times, about details like that. So of all of Chris's designs, this is by far my favorite one, partly because it's just a great size for EDC, which just kind of has a special place in my heart, and also because just as easily as it can be used for bushcraft, it's also a good fighter. It's got this great finger ring down at the bottom, and there's plenty of room for my finger, even in a pair of gloves. And I've got friggin' sausage fingers, so I'd imagine this fits kind of like a one size fits all. I think most people should be able to comfortably use that ring. So anyway, it's equally designed to be used for forward and reverse grip, which I just think is awesome. And like a lot of Chris's designs, it's got that kind of user, task-oriented use in mind. So I'm just a big fan. I think it's a versatile knife, and definitely my favorite of the ones I know of that he's designed. So, okay, let's get into the sheath. This is a front pocket sheath. It is, because of the kind of duality of how, forward and reverse grip, of how this knife is designed, a pocket sheath like this could just as easily be a forward or a reverse grip pocket sheath. Because of that, I've designed it so that it can be ambidextrous, so that you can switch which side and which grip you're going to be using. One side is automatically going to be the exact opposite grip as the other side. So as you see it right here, this is currently configured for right hand forward grip. Right, so I can reach down, grip it and rip it, or use the thumb ramp like I just did. That's going to come out in a forward grip. But if I flip this over to my left side, it's automatically going to be in a reverse grip position. This is personally how I would carry it, left-handed reverse. And part of the reason for that is just because I'm a right-handed shooter, and I always have a sidearm on me. So if I'm ever in a situation where someone is trying to get my gun off of me, I could protect that with my right hand while I reach over on the left to deploy a blade and help defend my firearm. This is my lifeline. If anybody else gets that off of me, that's a game changer. It's probably game over. So always have some kind of contingency plan, I think, to be able to fend that off and defend what's important. So anyway, that's just food for thought in case you're thinking about carrying a gun and a knife on you. I would recommend using the knife with your support hand, so that if you're ever in that scenario, you might be able to defend the gun more effectively with your blade. So, okay, so you can see obviously the ulti clip is riding on a plate. So this thinner piece here is actually a Kydex plate. I've taken a piece of Kydex and folded it over itself. So you can see this is the spine, this is the fold, versus what an actual, sanded down and buffed edge looks like. This is the fold, meaning that you have this finished Kydex on both sides, the finished rather than the smooth. Just in case I sound like I'm talking gibberish, Kydex comes with one textured finished side and then a smooth side. The smooth side goes on the inside of the sheath, and the textured side goes outside. So there's no smooth side exposed on this, which means that it can be flipped to the opposite side of the sheath, and it still just looks like the front of the sheath. Obviously, if you're going to do that and switch to a right hand reverse grip or left hand forward grip, all you have to do is take these 3 screws out and then take the ulti clip off, move it to the other side, and then remount the plate onto the opposite side of the sheath. So it's very easy to do. It would take about 2 minutes to swap that over, and yeah, there you go. So this is a design that I have created, that I modeled highly off of another maker's design. If you guys are not already familiar, I hope you are, but if you're not already familiar with him, you need to go check out Gary at C2G Fab, C2G Fab, F-A-B. great dude and great sheath maker. And I think he's out of the game now. So even so, I want to give credit where credit's due. I'm not about trying to steal other people's work. But this is a design that Gary was the first one to come up with. I was lucky enough to buy a Bushbat, and it happened to be from him and came with one of his sheaths. So I'm extremely honored to own this great knife, but also this great sheath that Gary made. And you can see the parallel here. You can see, obviously, where the inspiration comes from. So Gary's design here was a symmetrical plate, so you could take this plate and flip it over to the other side of the sheath and still have the textured side facing outward. So he's created the same kind of ambidextrous setup that I've got, just done a different way, or well, vice versa. I've created it, just done a different way from what Gary, the first one to come up with this, did. So why this is really important. Obviously, you could just take an ulti-clip and you could mount it to the eyelets on the side of the sheath. But the problem is, when you go to draw, this is the center balance point of the knife. And as you draw, it's going to counter against the anchor point of the ulti-clip on your fabric. So in this case, it's going to actually tilt the knife this way when you go to draw. That's just a natural effect because of where the anchor point is and where the balance point is of the knife. So now, if I put a plate on there and allow the ulti-clip to be centered on that balance point, when you draw up, the knife comes straight up. It's not going to tilt, it's not going to cant, nothing unexpected. It is exactly where it needs to be. And that is the significance of what Gary first came up with. He realized the issue immediately when ulti-clips kind of entered the scene and started being used on sheaths. And you saw it first on Kydex holsters, but sheaths followed pretty soon after. And I won't say that Gary was the very first guy to ever think of carrying a fixed blade in his pocket or a sheath even in his pocket. But certainly he was the first one to start throwing the ulti-clip on there, and certainly the first one to do it with this offset plate so that the ulti-clip would be perfectly centered on the balance point of the knife. So I think that's really noteworthy. It is absolutely worth repeating, and it's worth telling everybody that, you know, he's the one that designed that first, and I've modeled mine after his. So you can see there are a lot of really, really striking similarities, but there are a couple little differences. These are just differences that I've thrown on there for my own personal preference because I think it makes it slightly more versatile or stronger or whatever. But it's not to say it's necessarily better. You don't really need anything stronger for a pocket carry. It's just kind of, I like building things a little, you know, overkill probably. So having that plate be folded over itself rather than just being a single layer does make this a lot more rigid. And then the other thing is, instead of having a symmetrical plate that's just kind of like a square down here, I actually traced the shape of the whole sheath, and that allows me to put another eyelet excuse me, down here in line with the ulti-clip, making the plate a lot more rigid to the sheath. So while I don't think you need that, it's just a feature I personally prefer to have on my own stuff, and therefore that's what I do when I make a customer's sheath. Another really small addition, and I'm not necessarily advocating that you use it, but I put a second set of drill holes here. So you'd be able to laterally move this ulti-clip, or you could span and find some different diagonals between the two rows that give you different levels of cant. So maybe you want to experiment and see if there's something else that would really work for you. Personally, I think that the alignment right now is the most optimal because it is always going to pull perfectly straight if you have the clip in line with the balance point of the knife. Because there are 3 holes there. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry. My throat is just not having it today. I went running last night and it was really cold and rainy, so now I'm all hoarse. All right, so because of the ulti-clip's milled slots plus that mounting hole, and because of the 3 holes here, that does give you a lot of ride height option as well. So you can adjust the ride height up to sink this down into your pocket further, or you can pull it down to put more of the handle outside of the pocket. Right now, where it's at right here is where I personally like it. That's just me, but you can obviously take the plate off and move that ulti-clip anywhere you want to have it and see what works for you best. So, all right, C2G Fab no longer in business. However, he does still have a bunch of videos on YouTube, and he still has an Instagram page. So guys, why don't you go over and put some likes and comments on his stuff. Give him some love. He deserves it. He's definitely one of the greats, one of the Kydex giants of his time. And I think it's worth going over and showing a little love and respect. So please, if you're a subscriber to my channel, or if you like my work, please, please, please go over and give Gary some love for what he's done for the industry as well. It's definitely influenced my work, and I want to give him credit for having done that. So, all right, that said, going on to the next topic here, Bark River Knives. They are my favorite production knife company. So I'm not going to say this. Sorry, the camera's a little low. So I'm not saying this with criticism in mind. It's just the facts of the matter. I think it's one of the things that makes them a great company, but it can also make for a little bit of a problem when it comes to sheath making. So one of the things that everybody needs to be aware of is that, yes, I own a pile of Bark Rivers because I love them and I use them often when I go camping. However, they hand finish most of their stuff. So it is a production knife company, but their handles in particular are hand finished, and therefore the dimensions are not often the same. So even though these are both Bushbats, they're both the same production run, they're both the same handle material. Well, they're both, no, this one's micarta. Mine is micarta, this one's carbon fiber. But they are the same blade steel, all that. The handles are significantly different. So originally, when my customer Jim, who owns this knife, sent me some messages and we were talking about the project, I'd said, you know what, I own a Bushbat. Let me preemptively form a sheath so that when you send your knife, it's going to be a really quick turnaround. All I have to do is maybe a couple little fine-tuning adjustments, and it should be perfect fit. What I didn't count on was that his knife was going to be so significantly wider than mine on the handles. I think you can see that here, right up at the tip, that his is just significantly wider. So I did form a sheath on my own, and then I put his knife into it when it arrived. And this is a tricky knife to begin with because there's very little contour on the handle scales for retention. So you have to get retention down here at the bottom of this blade stock. And you can see that. You can see that little divot there. That's where 99% of the retention comes from on this sheath for this knife. So when I put his into the sheath I'd formed on my knife, it actually spread the mouth of the sheath open, and instead of clicking in place, it actually like spits the knife back out slightly because it's spread open and letting go of that retention point. So obviously that was a no-go, and in my opinion, that is a major overhaul that would require reheating and repressing anyway. So I said, you know what? I don't have one of my own sheaths for my Bushbat, so why don't I keep that, put it on the back burner, and maybe finish it and make a sheath for myself with it at some point. But in the meantime, I will prep his knife and reform a new sheath on it. So that's exactly what I've done here. So as far as the sheath goes, well, actually, hold on, before I get into that. So Bark Rivers, even if I own the same exact knife, same exact handle material, same exact blade material, all that, you need to be aware that with these hand finished knives, the fit is, I just can't guarantee a perfect fit unless I have your knife in hand to work with. So please, please, please understand that that's just kind of one of the necessities. I'm happy to build you a sheath. If you really don't want to send your knife, I will absolutely use my own to make a sheath for you, but I cannot guarantee the fit unless I have your sheath or your knife in hand. Sorry. So I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's just the part of the nature of having a hand finished knife, and they are great. This is the best. I think it's the best production knife company in the world. But anyway, give me your opinions down below. Let me know what you think of that whole hand finished conundrum. Would you guys trust me to build a sheath using my own? I mean, like I said, you might get lucky and you might have a scenario. Actually, check this out. So this one obviously is wider. Used it to make this sheath. This is my knife. It's narrower. You might get lucky. It fits in. It clicks in. It does have a rattle, but the retention is decent. So would I personally carry this? Yeah, I'd probably carry it. But I wouldn't ever send a customer a sheath that has this much of a rattle in it. I just don't like that. That said, you know, it does fit good. It's got a ballistic draw, all that good stuff. So you might get lucky and have this scenario, but it could just as easily go the opposite way and have the knife not fit at all. So I don't recommend that in the least. But let me know what you guys think down below. Also, let me know what you think of front pocket sheaths. Is it a good idea to carry a fixed blade instead of a folder? I personally think it is. I think a fixed blade is stronger, it's more reliable, and more versatile than a folder. If you've been following my channel lately, you're probably about to comment about what a hypocrite I am, because you probably know that based on recent videos that I've been carrying a Spyderco Manix 2 in this cool auto deploy pocket sheath. So when I need it, I just pull it out of the pocket and do that, and it flicks the blade out for me. And then all of a sudden I've got that knife where I can, you know, use it, flip it around and use it for EDC, or keep it in that karambit position if I need for quick defense or whatever the scenario is. However, as much as I love the Manix 2 and have been carrying it for a month now, I recognize and also advocate for the carry of a fixed blade over a folder for a lot of different reasons, not the least of which is just that it's always going to be there and reliable. If I messed up the draw on that, which could absolutely happen in an emergency situation, then I've got a partial deploy and a useless hunk of steel in my hand rather than a dangerous weapon. So, all right, anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think down below. Again, let me know what you think of Chris Tanner's designs. Let me know what you think of Bark River knives in general. Let me know what you think of Gary's awesome creation. Obviously, you know how I feel about it, but I would love your opinions down below. And without that from Gary, you probably wouldn't have this from me. So I like to really pay some respect to the guy, because he came up with some important things, not the least of which was this offset plate. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you sticking around for 17 minutes of my rambling. So if you liked my sheath, if you like Gary's sheath, and if you like Chris Tanner's knives, hit that like button. If you like the channel, subscribe. Please comment down below. Let's get some conversations generated about these different topics, and share this video with all your buddies. All right, guys, I hope to see you in the next one. God bless.